This playoff picks edition of the MLB Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog has just added Pick 'em Scorches, where you can win 100x. That's right, turn $5 into 500 in one game. Plus, every Sunday, they're giving away $100,000. Use the promo code SGPN at Underdog Fantasy for a 100% deposit bonus up to $500. We're brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com. Use code SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today. Plus, NBA is back, so is the NBA Gambling Podcast. To celebrate, we're giving away an NBA Gambling Podcast hoodie. Head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/NBA-dog for all of the details. Welcome, everybody, to the MLB Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. My name is Malcolm Bamford, coming to you from Newcastle upon Tyne in the northeast of England. Today is Monday, October the 23rd. Close. Monday, October the 23rd. We've got the final day of the season, which we'll have two games of baseball. We've got a game 6 and a game 7 going tonight. Joining me to have a little look back at what's happened over the weekend and to make some winning picks on tonight's game is full of margaritas, Mr. Scott Reichel. Scott, how are you?
Doing pretty well. Recovered over the weekend. It was a good time in Philly. I was actually in a sports book watching the Phillies win Game 5. So it just worked out that way. I was there for college football, and I was there for the UFC card. And then we ended up staying because we were gambling all day. And then it's like, oh, yeah, that's right. We're in Philly, and the Phillies are playing. So we ended up just watching a game with a pretty raucous crowd, which was a good time. But fun game for the Phillies. It wasn't really a good game overall, but it was entertaining to be there. And I got to see a bunch of Phillies jerseys. So that was an interesting thing I'm not used to being in New York.
What college football did you go and see? Was that your team or something? Or
no, we went to a sports book. So we just there were like screens all over the place. We were just watching all the games at the same time. Yeah. Unfortunately, the college football card was kind of boring. There were a couple of good games late. I know like Virginia beat North Carolina. I don't know if you follow any college football or not, but there were not many high-profile games that actually lived up to the hype. There were a lot of really boring, one-sided games, or games that were just bad. The Ohio State-Penn State game was awful, and the Air Force Navy game was bad too. So the sports themselves might not have been the most entertaining on Saturday, but I made money, and I had fun, and I got drunk.
Yeah.
So that's a win-win-win as far as I'm concerned.
That's the holy trinity right there, Scott. I worked most of the weekend, so I didn't do too much betting. I caught up with most of the scores and the highlights. But if I can't watch the game, I'm more inclined to have a little bit when I can watch the game. So rather than not, I had a job on Saturday. I then completely forgot that I had a job on Sunday. So went out in a bad temper at short notice to do that and kind of missed all the NFL. But the NFL was a bit of a weird card as well. I need to stop taking the Dolphins against half decent teams. But yeah, baseball-wise, it was a fun weekend. There was kind of two different ends of the spectrum. There was a very regulation win for Philadelphia in Arizona in Game 5. It was a pretty bloodless victory. Arizona got themselves back into the series, which we were delighted with. And then that was a fairly anemic performance, leaving Philly 3-2 ahead. And then Texas got away from Houston late, the Adolis Garcia Grand Slam yesterday, and tied that one up at 3-3. So that's beautifully set up for a Game 7 tonight, Scott.
Yeah, should be fun. I mean, I'm just happy that we finally have two competitive series. We have one that went the full 7. We'll see if the Diamondbacks can force a 7 tonight, but still, it feels good because the first couple rounds were extremely one-sided, and now we actually have two competitive series.
Absolutely. The chat is lively for a Monday. Kaysen was first in. Trev's turned up. Captain Insano. I killed Captain Insano. I pronounced him dead from the Guillotine League in the NFL last night, and he's not. He's alive. Reports of Captain Insano's death were grossly exaggerated, so he survived for another week. Well done, Captain. You can. I reverse jinxed you in there. So well done. Okay, so we've got one. The first game's a great time for me to watch. Another 7 minutes past 10 p.m. so I can throw the kids in bed and come down and watch the D-backs and the Phillies. We'll get stuck into these plays. There's quite a few plays that I like. More pitcher plays than batters, but we get into those. I'll tell you about Underdog Fantasy first. Underdog Scorchers. If you go 5 for 5, like Cameron Kerr from the Golf Show, you get a 91-1. You can get up to 100 times your payout. And the first deposit bonus has been extended up to $500. So keep that going. 100,000 Sundays continue. 10 lucky winners winning 10 grand each. What's the play tonight in the Niners game, Scott? What's the underdog play?
So for the underdog play, we're going to go with Kirk Cousins interception.
Kirk Cousins interception, okay. I heard Kramer throwing out the over 2.5 Kirk Cousins rushing yards this morning when I was listening. That made me giggle. Watch along, make your picks, maybe make a little cash on Underdog's mobile app or website, underdogfantasy.com. When you sign up with the promo code SGPN, Underdog double your first deposit up to $500. Underdog Fantasy promo code SGPN. And the NBA Underdog contest, head over to the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/NBA dog to submit your screenshot. And you can win the NBA Gambling Podcast hoodie. Use the promo code SGPN. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/NBA dog.
By the way, unrelated, Did you make it through the first week of Second Chance Survivor?
Well, I never got my email, unfortunately, Scott. So I need to have a look. I still, apparently, technically, can still enter tonight. So I've done it. Yeah. So I need to do it again because actually, live in the live chat on the recap show last night, a few people had said they hadn't got their email. So I think it's quite a good time to end it with. Obviously, the Bills, etc., took out quite a large part of the pool. So I'm going to try and squeeze in tonight, take the 49ers, and then go from there. So I'll have to give it another go because I don't know why that happened. So I will try that. Lane, good afternoon. Lane Elliott joined us in the chat. First up tonight, then, Arizona Diamondbacks with Merrill Kelly and the Philadelphia Phillies with Aaron Nola. The Snakes are plus 165. The Phillies are minus 185, and the total is set at 8. Merrill Kelly pitched in this spot last week. Only difference being it wasn't an elimination spot for him, but very similar, really. And he pitched okay. It was the game finished lopsided. It finished 10-0. But Kelly actually went okay. Pitched 5 2/3, 3 hits, 4 earned runs, and 3 walks. Crucially, all 3 hits were home runs. But I could quite think that's a positive sign. Like if he can not make those mistakes again, keep the ball in the yard, just keep it down a little bit, Merrill. We'll turn those homers into ground balls. I mean, he went scoreless at the Dodgers in his last time. He need to go well. For me, Philly blew up the pen last time after Kelly left. It's not an easy spot. The couple of props I liked on Merrill Kelly here, Scott, were the first two were juiced again. The lines are spot on. Like I like the over 14.5 outs because Kelly he's a very steady performer. We've said this a lot. That's juiced to minus 147, so I won't be backing that. I like his under on the K prop. The line's at 5.5, which would have cashed 4 out of his last 5. But that's also just to minus 140. So I'm going to stay away from those. But I did find a Merrill Kelly prop that I really like. And it's over 2.5 earned runs at plus 110. If he's going well, they'll leave him in. I can see him giving up 1 or 2, maybe through 4 or 5 innings, and then running into trouble. And the moment that big hit comes, a bit like the last game, if Philly get to him early, that's fine too. So we've got a couple of different ways of cashing this. 2.5's a low number. If they're still only trailing 3-1, 3-2, they'll just let Kelly keep going. I know pitchers are on a short leash, but I think Kelly will be absolutely fine. So over 2.5 runs is my first play here. Aaron Nola's been outstanding in the playoffs. 3-0, 0.96 ERA. He pitched in that same 10-0 game last week. Pitched 6 scoreless, gave up 3 hits, struck out 7. Again, over 5.5 strikeouts is a pick I like, but that's juiced to minus 140. The angle I like on Nola is him to record the win is at plus 170, Scott. He's got the length. That's not a problem. He should be there long enough to be able to record the win. His 3 playoff games he started, Philadelphia have won by 6, 8, and 10. So yeah, the two pitching angles are like Merrill Kelly over 2.5 earned runs and Aaron Nola to record the win at +170, Scott.
All right. So I'm going to ask you, since you're the one with the Diamondbacks future, do you think they have a shot to win the game?
Well, they've got a shot. They're +165.
Yeah, I know that. I'm just saying, do you actually realistically see a scenario where they win?
When we get to my pick, you'll see not. But it could. I'm kind of trying the reverse jinx. I mean, it's a game of baseball. It's got the odds reflect the chances, so it's not. I mean, it's not even a 7-4 chance, a 2-1 shot. So they are very, very live. But I see your point. I mean, most iterations of this, if you handicap this, and I think most people in the chat will agree, you've got to come down on the side of Philly because that's where all the evidence points. So yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious because I agree, but I am going to go with the over for outs with Kelly. I do think +140 on DraftKings is an absolute bargain at 15.5. I feel like once again Arizona's bullpen's actually been decent for the most part in the series, but we know how bad it can be. Kelly's been one of their best pitchers, probably their best pitcher for the last couple of months because Gallen was a mess on the road and he was kind of hit or miss down the stretch. Kelly's been very solid, and I do think that if Arizona's going to go out, it's probably going to be with their best pitcher on the mound. I see him getting stretched out and probably going 6, maybe. But I do think 15.5 outs at, once again, it's just a good price for 5 1/3 at +140. I'm going to take that. I also like the first 5 under in this matchup. I think this total's a bit high. The wind is blowing heavily in Philly, so you're looking at what should be a pretty solid pitching environment. And Philly, despite breaking through offensively in Game 5, they still only score via home run. Like, they don't do any small ball. They don't do anything else besides just hit bombs. And if the weather is going to support the lack of home runs, I see a lower scoring game. And Arizona, the issue you run into is the fact that this team has no sense of clutch hitting. They did for one game, and that was the game they came back for in Game 4. But you're just looking at Arizona having all these chances and nobody can come through about 80% of the time. It's a mess. So I think that Nola and Kelly are going to pitch well. I see a lower scoring game, especially in the first 5. I love the first 5 under. I think, once again, with the wind blowing in to somewhat neutralize Philly's power, Arizona's offense doesn't scare me. No offense. And I think for that reason, I'm going to go with the first 5 under. I see a low scoring 2-1 type game through 5.
Arizona have really got away from where they had their success, which was sort of ambushing teams early. Corbin Carroll's dropped off. I think I had the radio call of that game on Saturday night when I was driving home from work, and Carroll was 1 for 15 at that point through the series. And
I need to look up the stats, but I'm trying to think of who on Arizona has actually been good. Marte's been fantastic.
Moreno had one good game.
Moreno had a good game. I haven't heard from Walker all series. I might have had like one hit, like one big hit, but I can't really think of anybody that's come through besides Marte on a regular basis with this team.
No, you can think of like isolated instance. Pavin Smith had one hit. Perdomo bats like me. He had one home run somehow he put back the ball. But other than that, he's like a frog in a blender at the plate. He looks awful.
Thomas has had a couple of home runs here and there, but
again, isolated incidents. Yeah. So
I'll tell you one player I'm looking at to fade though for Arizona. It's a guy who should potentially retire. He's been that bad. I got to talk about Longoria. He's an absolute zero at the plate. Like, at this point, you're looking at Longoria. He's not even close on any of these. Now, Bohm, I roasted earlier in the series. He has still not been very good, but he has found some hits here and there. Same thing with Stott. He found a hit or two. He had a big RBI in Game 5. But Longoria is not even close. Like, you're looking at a decent amount of these markets with the no-hits prop for batters. Give me Longoria and no hits because he's batting 133 in the playoffs. He's been so bad that if they benched him, I wouldn't be shocked. They're not going to because he still plays third base and he's got some experience in these situations. But I think everyone's noticed the same thing. Longoria has been an absolute zero in the lineup.
Looking through the chat here, Josie wants the Phillies run line. We've got Schwarber and Harper RBIs sitting at +180 for Kaysen. Trev's writing his Phillies series bet, and Insano on the stolen base prop. That's quite an interesting angle with the wind blowing in.
I want the stolen base props because Nola doesn't hold anybody on, but Arizona hasn't stolen any bases this entire series. Like I don't understand what Arizona is trying to do offensively, especially against Nola, because we saw Nola pitch well earlier in the series. I think Carroll got on base on a leadoff error, and they just decided to not let him run a single time. And Nola was giving up, I forgot what it was, like tied for the 6th most stolen bases, I think, in the National League, or it was something. It was a high number. They haven't used their speed. They haven't used their youth. I don't know what they're doing, Arizona. It's like they keep passing around the baton, and nobody's been stepping up, but they haven't even tried to change their approach. They've been bad offensively, objectively bad offensively, for what, like 4 of the 5 games in this series?
Yeah.
Try to steal some bases. Do something. Like, I do agree with Carroll if they steal, and they better try because Nola doesn't hold anybody on. But I'm just tired of watching Arizona do the same thing over and over again and expect different results.
Carroll never looked like he was going to attempt to steal either. He was taking such a small lead. Because one of the things with the stolen base is, you get the stolen base, but also having the spectre of the stolen base is quite handy. Just to throw the pitch off a little bit. Yeah. But Carroll, it was obvious. I was sitting here. I knew he had no intention. The commentators knew he had no intention as well. So, yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. On terms of a side, Scott, I talked about the reverse jinx. I think you have to back Philly on the run line. What price is that? Let's have a quick look.
It's gonna be probably plus money because it's
I think it's funny. I had it written down at plus 210, and it's definitely not plus 210 though.
You might have accidentally put down Arizona. Actually, no, Arizona would probably be higher than 210 too. Let me check. It's gonna be probably around like plus 105 or like even money if I had to guess. Yeah,
it might have been plus 110.
Actually, no, it's like plus 120.
Okay. I've got me 2 and me 1 the wrong way around, that's all. So, I mean, they've covered fairly comfortably in both games at home in this series. And against Atlanta before that, they covered the run line in all the wins. So you've just taken purely on those numbers. And what, as you've just described, what we've seen out of Arizona. Philly on the run line at plus 120 is a good line. In terms of the bats, I didn't have much at all, really. Trey Turner, we've talked about him a lot. He's in good form. 9 for 21 off Merrill Kelly. Over 1.5 total bases is plus money. Plus 105. But there was a lot of skinny odds and nothing really much I liked apart from that. You have anything with the bats, Scott?
Well, I mentioned Longoria before. Him to not record a hit is minus 130, which I can't really argue with because he's been that bad at the plate. Let me just check the Bohm numbers because I know Bohm has actually been doing a little bit better lately. But okay, Bohm no hit tonight is plus 195. What are we doing? Yeah, okay, I'll take plus 195. 195? What are you, out of your mind? Yeah, I'll take that. You're telling me that he needs to not get a hit in 1 out of 2 games to basically like break? Hell yeah, I'm going to take that. Bohm no hits plus 195. That's a great deal. Let me look at Stott because I know Stott had a hit the other day, last game. Once again, he had the RBI. But I just want to pull this up. I know Rojas also gotten some hits recently, but he's not a very good player. At least hitting. He's a good fielder. But Stott no hits is plus 150. I'll take that too. What is Rojas at? Rojas no hits is plus 110. I'll take all 3 of them. Plus money? Yeah, that's a great deal. I'll take those 3, and I'll also take Longoria no hits at minus 130.
Okay, I like that. We move across to the Silver Boot Series. I've heard it called, apparently. We'll tell you first about Hall of Fame bets. Winning bigger, betting smarter this NFL season with Hall of Fame bets, the sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Research NFL, NBA, MLB, and soccer bets, historical stats and data. And the key thing here is the Parlay Optimizer, helping you with things like hit rates broken down by leg, expected probabilities, sort players by hit rate to learn which players have got the best value, etc. So stop betting in the dark, join 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame bets app or visit hofbets.com. Use code SGPN to get 50% off your first month. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame bets. Okay, tonight, 8:07, I think, first pitch. Texas at Houston. Texas have Max Scherzer on the mound. Houston will roll with Christian Javier. Plus 105, the Rangers. Minus 125, the Astros. Total is 9.5. Scott, you can lead us off here.
I'm going to start off with a question for you. Do you have faith in either starting pitcher for this game?
I have some faith in Javier.
Okay. So my main play for a player prop in this one was Scherzer under outs, which is at around 13.5. He has to go 4 2/3 to go over. Yeah. I don't see him going 4 2/3. Just simply put.
That is also my first play, Scott. That's the first thing in my notes here. Good price, I thought. A lot of these props are in that first game. They were minus 140 or thereabouts. This is minus 120, so I loved it. Yeah. So, drawn to the under. 4 innings last time. That looks about right. 13.5 is too high, but I love the price on that as well. So I agree with you on that. Scherzer.
I guess the argument is that he went 4 innings and he pitched terribly. So you might say, well, maybe they'll let him, figure it out. They won't. It's Game 7. Like Game 7, you're pulling him if he gets into any trouble at all. It also, I think, factored into how long Scherzer went despite struggling. The fact they were up 2-0 in the series, so the stakes weren't at its highest, and you can make an argument that Scherzer is making his first appearance in about a month. That's another issue you have with Scherzer and why I don't think he should be pitching. Simply put, he's made 1 appearance since September 13th, and you're just throwing him out there for a Game 7. I'd be shocked if he went more than 4 innings.
The earned runs is linked to that. I looked at that over 1.5 earned runs, but that's minus 140. And I think the two things are correlated. Because if he gives up those 2 runs, he gets hooked. So I'd much rather take the minus 120 on the outs.
Yeah, I agree.
Crispin, have you got any more faith in me?
I was going to say, I also want to include for the Scherzer thing, the fact that Eovaldi pitched really well, I thought he would, because Eovaldi's actually a really good big game pitcher. He's very underrated in big games. But he went into the 7th inning, and then they blew it open in the 9th. Chapman didn't pitch, so he's going to probably get an inning. Leclerc only pitched 2/3. He'll be available. And you're going through the bullpen. They really didn't use anybody. They used Andrew Heaney to close the game. So you can make an argument
that this morning. When I put the highlights on this morning, I saw Andrew Heaney come in for the 9th. I did giggle. A little bit of a fall from grace, but yeah, he was a warm body, so he did that.
Yeah, so the point is you're looking at a spot where I just have to at least acknowledge Texas' bullpen's actually in good shape for this game, which might even cause a shorter leash for Scherzer. But I refuse to believe a guy. I'm not even going to get into the playoff history because we know Scherzer has been really bad in the playoffs recently, and you can draw whatever conclusions you want from that. But the point is, even if Scherzer pitches decently, but Houston's threatening, Houston just has guys on base all the time, they're going to pull him anyway because the bullpen's going to be somewhat rested. And once again, Scherzer's made 1 appearance in the last month and change. 1. And I just, once again, think that Scherzer, who only threw 60 pitches, give or take, in Game 3, is probably going to be around 60 pitches anyway in an elimination game. Now, of course, if Scherzer comes out there and pitches a gem, we're going to lose anyway. But I'm not picking Scherzer to pitch a gem. I think it's a lot more likely Scherzer gets shelled than gives up no runs. So I'm on Scherzer under outs. I think that's a great deal.
Yeah, totally agree. It was my first pick. Christian Javier, he's been good. I say I've got some faith in him. He's been great in the playoffs. 2 comfortable road wins in his 2 starts. 5 scoreless in Minnesota, 5 2/3. 3 hits, 2 earned runs at Texas. And I like the over on his outs, over 12.5. For a couple of reasons. Everyone were talking about short leashes. Everyone in the chat's talking about short leashes. I get it. But the 2 reasons are he's 15 of his last 17 have gone over. And it's plus money. So I think you can afford to take. There's 12.5's not egregious. I think you can get to 13 or more at plus money. In terms of a side, Scott, Houston first 5 was my pick here. Just because I can't have Scherzer. But I also don't want to get into the wild final stages. The Bobby Abreu suspension, I think, is going to be important. And we've seen these games have got runs. Both teams have got runs in them at any point. Texas got away late last night. So I would rather just stick early here. Minus 116 for Houston on the first 5. I think is a good play. So, yeah, they're my 3 plays would be Scherzer on the under, Javier over 12.5 outs, and Houston first 5 at minus 116. Who do you think wins, Scott?
I said going into the series, if you remember, I said there's value on Texas at plus 120, but I think Houston finds a way. because they always find a way. They're like cockroaches. You can't kill them. Like, they're just going to find a way to win. Of course, I'm rooting for Texas. I don't think anybody actually likes Houston besides Munaf and the other Astros fans, but I'm rooting for Texas because they're fun, and it's nice to see new blood. I think they're going to fall apart. So I'm going to lean to Houston here. I have more faith in Javier than Scherzer, but I also have more faith in Houston's bullpen. I think that's going to matter a lot. But I do think looking at this overall spot, the home team I know was 0 in the first 6 games. So you can argue that home field doesn't actually matter at all in the series, and I wouldn't argue with you. But maybe it helps in Game 7 to have the crowd in your back. Who knows? But I do wonder, it's such an inexperienced Texas team with a lot of young parts. Houston's been there before. Experience goes in their favor. I don't know if you believe in the experience angle or not, but I'm going to lean to Houston. Once again, I just think they find a way. I like Texas for the value going to the series. I thought Houston would win it, and I think Houston gets to Scherzer. And I think that, like we've seen in a lot of these playoff games, the team that's winning by multiple runs in the first 3 innings or 4 innings just finds a way to win the game. So I'm going to lean to Houston. I think they're going to win a game. I'm going to lean to the total's very tricky for me because Game 7's always lean under, but I have questions about both starting pitchers. I think I'm going to lean to the under in this game. Give me some type of like 5-2 final, 5-3 final. I think Houston finds a way to win.
In terms of player props, again, it was quite tricky. I was looking at hot players. Altuve stands out. Total bases over 1.5 is plus 135. And a bit of a mad one, a plus 390 shot here for a home run. Josh Jung for Texas. Short sample, but he's 2 for 3 off Javier. He's got plenty of power. And I did like Nathaniel Lowe props. He's hit safely 5 in a row. But I need to find some over 1.5. So I can only find at the moment over half of whatever it is I'm looking for, whether it's hits, whether it's total bases, whether it's runs, RBIs. I need to find some over 1.5. He's right about minus 166 to clear half of those things. But I'll shop around and see if I can find some alt lines on Nathaniel Lowe. But he's a player I'd be interested in. Any batting props for you, Scott?
Well, there was one other pitching prop that I was tempted by that I wanted to look into briefly. It is going to go back to Scherzer, but I thought about it. I was wondering about the walks, because if I'm not picking him to go that long, but then I looked at how juicy it was, and it's up there. I mean, Scherzer under 1.5 walks is like minus 160, 170, so I think I'm going to have to pass on that, but I was tempted. For hits, I tend to go for plus money if I was going for a no-hits prop, which, of course, takes Maldonado out of the equation because he's like minus 200 to not get a hit in every single game, and I can't argue with that. I think Garcia is going to come through, so I do like Garcia 1.5 bases. I think he's in line for a good game. I'm trying to think if there's any real angle that I like. What do I want to look at here? I don't really see much that I'm really that tempted by when it comes to props in this game. It's just Game 7. You're expecting everyone to throw it at the kitchen sink, and you're going to see what sticks. I think Jung's a good player. I am a bit tempted by Simeon under half a hit at plus 180. Simeon has just not had a very good series, and I feel like people once again price him that way because he's batting top of the order, so I might get an extra batter, and I get all that. But from what I've seen, maybe it's just personal bias, but I have not exactly seen Simeon step up in big spots before. Plus 180, I think that's kind of appealing on the no hit, but I'm taking flyers on these guys at a decent amount of plus money.
Simeon, just purely by the eye test, just looks quite uncomfortable. He doesn't look like he's expecting just a little body language thing.
I think he was good last game, but for the most part, it just feels like Simeon is... maybe it's just because I don't like his approach at the plate, but I don't know. It just feels like some of the timing is off or something just doesn't seem right when he's at the plate. Now, once again, he was pretty good in Game 6, but plus 180, I'll take a shot at plus 180. I think that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah,
he's
absolutely.
Batting 191 in the playoffs. Like, all right, I'll take plus 180 for a guy batting a 191.
Okay, I think that's everything covered. Cheeky little half an hour on a Monday morning to get everyone juices flowing for baseball. Is there anything else you'd like to point out to the people, Scott, before we go?
Yeah, I didn't ask you if you like the over or the under for the Game 7.
Under. It's half a point too high. I like the 5-3, 5-4, something like that. I know we'd like to see.
And you're taking Houston, right? I know you said Houston first 5, but I'm assuming you're leaning that they win the game too.
I'd like Texas to win. I know that's not a good excuse for betting someone, but I'd like Arizona to win, and I would like Texas to win. So I'll probably leave it. I mean, good if you gave me $500 and asked me to bet someone, I'd probably bet Houston, but I'll take Houston on the first 5. Hopefully Texas can mount a little fight back. Good for the sport as well. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. You joining us on Monday morning. Thanks everyone in the chat. It was full of beans today. Love it. Nice little Monday morning perker. Okay, well, enjoy the games, everybody. We'll probably be back tomorrow. We might not be. Who knows? It's all in the lap of the baseball.
I think Munaf just not Munaf. Sorry, I think Malcolm just lagged out during the. I see the burner account still there, so I guess the regular is not. You're back. Press the wrong button. What happened? I'll edit it out anyway at the end of the show, so it's fine. I think I could just wrap it up. All right, it's all good. Your thing's glitching out, so I'll just wrap it up. All right, thanks for stopping by for the Monday games for the MLB Gambling Podcast. We'll back once again, potentially tomorrow if the Diamondbacks end up winning. But until next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.
The aliens got me. See you later.